Hi there, crafty friends. Okay, so I found myself explaining the same things over and over and over in my videos in detail. And I start to felt like some of these people that have watched, some of you that have watched my videos a few times are like, okay, you don't have to go into so much detail about like casting on and stuff like that. So I decided to just make some short videos that will go into more detail on the very basics. And so I don't have to do that on all of my videos because some of them are getting too long. And I was afraid it was getting a little boring hearing me go into detail about how to cast on every single video. So I'm going to be doing 4 videos. This one is going to be casting on. Then I'll do one casting off. I'll do one on mattress stitch. And I'll do one on closing tubes because those are really the 4 basic skills that you need to do to be able to make things on an Addi or a Centro knitting machine. So here we go. All right, casting on. I'm going to show you 2 ways because those 2 ways are going to be like 95% of the time what you're going to use. So this first one is a simple cast on. You're going to leave a little bit of a tail in the middle. Start in the first of your 3 here on the Centro. There's only one different one, but you're going to start there. You're going to get it inside there and you're going to watch it go down beneath those 2 red teeth there. See how there's those 2 red teeth on each side? You're going to make sure it pulls down. So that one was in front. This one's behind this needle. This one's in front. And again, you're going to watch it pull down behind those teeth. This one's behind, in front, behind, in front, behind. Watching that the ones that are in front are pulled down behind the teeth. Behind, in front, behind, in front, behind. And I like to go pretty slow with that. It just, if you get it set up right in the first place, you're not going to have any trouble going forward. So I just always like to take my time for those first few rows and just get it really set up well for knitting. And then I put it around this red finger and through the guide. And then you are ready to go. And again, that first one, I always go a little bit slow just to see that it's getting going good, and that looks like it's going good. And what you're looking for is any loops hanging down. That would mean it skipped some. So see, these are all looking good. So now I'm off and running. So that is a simple cast on. You use a simple cast on whenever you're going to close a tube like this into a circle. So this would be for a hat or the head of a doll. Anything that you're going to close it like this, where you're pulling it together, is going to be want to do simple cast on. If you're closing something flat, that's when you're going to want to do a waste yarn cast on, which is what I'm going to show you next. This is for when you're going to close a tube flat like this, and it's called a waste yarn cast on. So you're going to take some yarn that's a good contrasting color from the color that you're going to use for your project. And I save my waste yarn and just reuse it so that it's not so wasteful. But this is how you're going to do a waste yarn cast on. So it's basically the same at the beginning as your simple cast on. So you're going to cast on, make sure that one's catching well, and you're just going to do 5 to 7 rows with the waste yarn. And sometimes if you hear a real chunking sound, that can often mean that the yarn is splitting. So just look at it, and if it's splitting, so what you're going to see if it's splitting is instead of the whole yarn being around these 2 teeth, it'll be split, you know, and there'll be half of it here and half of it in between. If that happens, just take your loom hook and pull it over the teeth so that it's not split, and that will really help, because if you don't, then when you try to go and pull your end together, it's gonna be stuck because it split the yarn. So just keep an eye out for that. Usually you can hear it. It'll go chunk, 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 you know, when it's splitting. This yarn is doing really good and not splitting. But that's what you want to look for when you're casting on. Either way, but especially when you're doing simple cast on. With the waist yarn, it actually doesn't matter as much because you're not going to be pulling it together like that. Okay, so now when you get back to here after 5, 7, so it doesn't need to be perfect, just, you know, 5, 7 rows, just enough to where, you know, it's not going to pull out. You'll see why later. And then just take it out of the yarn guide, put it in the middle, and then you're going to take your real yarn for your project that is a nice contrasting color. You're going to put it in the middle, put it through the yarn guide. I always like to hold this first and make sure that that one's pulled in and make sure that that one's pulled in. And then I'm going to give this just a slight tug so it goes under, and just tie one. You don't want to tie double knot because you're going to pull this out later. This is waist yarn. So then you're going to do your project just as you would have otherwise. And then in my video on how to close tubes, you'll see why that's so important to do it this way when you're closing a tube flat. So that's it. That's the 2 ways. So that was the basic casting on method that you're going to use probably 95% of the time. There are other methods to cast on, but this is really what you're going to use all the time. So I hope that was helpful for you, and I will see you next time. Much love always.